So after 7 days in the ICU, and you finally get home, and this is what I didn't see, at least on YouTube. I couldn't really get a lot of information from, even from the hospitals. I mean, it was there, but from a patient's perspective, this is the meat of it. And I will tell you that the day that I got home, which of course was great because I was home and I got to be in my own bed and all of that, but then it was getting out of bed. You know, it would be very, very easy to just settle in, but that's not what you're supposed to do. And that day that I got up, wandering around with my pillow, you'll get to appreciate the pillow, and I wandered around with my pillow and I kept thinking of all the things that I couldn't do. The number of restrictions, if not the thousands of restrictions that I couldn't do. And there were many, many of them. And that was the initial moment where I really felt like, oh my goodness, this is going to be really heavy. And I can see where things like depression that they'll talk about can come very, very quickly. But what I did in that moment is I went to my office and I sat down and I wrote down 7 things that I could do. And I wrote down and I said, take a shower, do the laundry, walk, and I could eat, and on and on. But I had this little short list of things that I could do, goals, I guess. And that day, I put my shoes on when I didn't want to get out of bed. It was my first day there with my pillow, and I wandered out the front door and I walked for 3 miles. Now, I walked slow. It took me almost 4 hours, but I did it. I went and I took a shower. It was incredibly difficult. In fact, I was on my knees because you can't raise your arms above your head. And I want to tell you that eating, which I hadn't eaten in 8 days, but I made my food and I ate it. And the laundry, which was taking laundry, wet clothes, which turns out are heavy, and moving those over to the dryer. It took me 40 minutes, but I did it. And each one of those goals for that day, I did it. And each one of those goals did one thing: it gave me a purpose. And that's important to know. And as the weeks went on, that list changed. And so at week 2, I drove for the first time. Now I will tell you, and the doctors will tell you, don't do it. There's airbag concerns that are totally legit. There are, you know, from the medication or just from the surgery, you're not really steady on your feet, and it's hard to turn around side to side. So driving's not a good idea. That said, I drove to the bank. Shouldn't have done it, but it was a goal of mine to be able to do that. When I got into week 3 and week 4 again, walking every single day. I made it a point to walk 2, sometimes 3 times. But I started to go from walking, you know, 2 or 3 miles to being able to walk a little bit further, but I would split that up in terms of number of times in the day. By the time I got to week 4, I set a goal that I was going to run a 1/4 mile around the track. Everybody, why are you doing this? Why do you feel like you need to do this? Because I know my body, and you know your body. And you have to be able to trust what it is that you feel. Listen to your doctors. Do what they say and tell you, if they're telling you don't lift more than 20 pounds, then don't do that. If you feel like your body can do a little bit more, I know at least for me, I wanted to push that a little bit. And in all of this, I was eyeing up week 8, 2 months after my surgery. So I think it was September. My wife had made an appointment, a reservation for us to go to Disney. And when all this started with everything, that didn't look like it was going to happen. But I kept saying, do not cancel that reservation. And even after the stroke, it was like, there's no way we're going to be able to do this. Well, you know what? The stroke is what gave me a surgery date. Well, the surgery date gave me a starting point. And that starting point, 8 weeks later, was exactly the moment that we were supposed to have the reservation to Disney. And I said, don't cancel it. And 8 weeks later, I got in my car with my wife and my 2 kids, and we drove from Houston to Orlando. And it took us 3 days, but we did it. 8 weeks to the day of my surgery, I got my picture in front of the castle at Disney. And I'm not a big Mickey Mouse guy. I love Mickey Mouse to a point. My kids love Mickey Mouse, but it wasn't that for me. It was that it was a goal. My goal is that I was going to be able to do that, and we did it. That week, I walked over 60 miles. I did a roller coaster. I did a water slide. Probably things I shouldn't have done, but things that I knew that I could do. I didn't feel great. but I woke up every morning before everybody else, and I was able to do everything during the day that they wanted to do. There were some rides, no, the jerky back and forth, I couldn't do those. But those were the goals. And by the time I got to week 12, I wanted to bench press 100 pounds, and I did 5 times. I don't know that the doctor wanted me to do that, but I did it, and I did it without any discomfort whatsoever. And what I would say in all of this is that I can go through, because there were many things, many smaller goals that I had set, things that I wanted to do to challenge myself. But there were 2 main things. And the first thing that I would say is that you have to get your attitude completely right. And this started during the preparation going into the surgery. I don't remember much of ICU, but most certainly during the recovery. I can tell you the attitude, it's staying in a place of being grateful. I mean, a spirit of gratitude. Really Thanksgiving all the time. And I'm going to tell you why that's important is because there is a voice that is real. And it will sit over the side of you and it will tell you what you can't do. That you're not good enough, smart enough, your heart's not good enough. And this doesn't necessarily need to be open heart surgery. It could be a relationship. It could be something else. It could be something financial or something at work, professional or more personal. But for me, it was open heart. And I will tell you that voice wants to tell you what you can't do over and over and over. But when you stay in a place of gratitude, truly thankful, it will smother that voice. And the day that I sat in that shower on my knees, trying to achieve the goal of having a shower on my own, I stayed in a place of gratitude. And when that voice was wanting to say what I couldn't do, I did it. The other part that I would say is, and it's very important, is just goals. The goals that you've got to have, because that's what gives us purpose. And the goals need to be realistic. You need to be able to challenge yourself and you need to be able to push yourself, but you got to have goals. Goals that you can cross off of a list every single day. Combine that with the attitude, and I got news for you, you win. And you start picking up victories. The more wins you get, the more victories you get, the better you start to feel and the more that you can do. My level of activity changed every single day. There is no way that I could have gotten in my car 2 months after surgery and gone and done what I did at Disney. And I could go through other stuff. At week 14, I hiked the summit at Enchanted Rock right outside of San Antonio. And I did it with my family. And I didn't need to do it, but I did it. And I will tell you, my beats per minute never went over 100. The doctor would say at that point, do what you can do. And let your surgeons tell you what you can do. For me, I wanted to be challenged. And I still want to be challenged. One thing that you're going to hear a lot about, which is absolutely true and it is real, which is depression. And whereas it did not affect me, and I may be the most optimistic guy that you'll ever come across, I will tell you that it is real. It is up to you. And yes, we all need our caregivers and we need our family members and we need our spouses and everybody that we can that loves us to be around us. And at your most vulnerable moment, it'll try to show itself. It's the voice of discouragement. And all it wants you to do is suck the life out of you, and it has to be a decision that I'm not going to let that happen. When it shows itself, and it will, you can smother that voice, but you got to recognize it. And when it starts to work on you, you have to get up, put your shoes on, and go for a 5-mile walk. Or you need to go find somebody that you can sit down and you can talk to and kind of get those feelings out. Even if it's just an old friend, maybe someone you haven't talked to in a while. But make no mistake about it, this thing is real. And I think that's the part that unfortunately will get a lot of us if we let it. So we don't let it. Get your attitude right, get your approach right, get your position and all of that correct, set your goals, have your purpose, and go win. Good news is you're in control of yourself.